In 1938, a Swiss chemist named Albert Hofmann was working at Sandoz Laboratories. His goal was to take ergot, a mold that usually grows on rye and occasionally poisons entire villages, and turn it into something useful. And on November 16, 1938, he managed to synthesize a compound called LSD-25, lysergic acid diethylamide. At first it didn't seem very promising, so Hofmann tossed it aside and moved on to other projects. But we're still talking about it, so fast forward 5 years later, to April 16, 1943. Hofmann decided to revisit LSD-25, because he had, in his words, a peculiar presentiment, a nerdy version of, "I had a weird feeling this might be important." While handling the compound, he accidentally absorbed a small amount through his skin. What happened next was unexpected. He started feeling dizzy and overwhelmed, and then entered what he described as a dreamlike state, full of intense colors and patterns. This was the world's first accidental acid trip. 2 days later, Hofmann decided to test LSD again, this time intentionally. And when I say test, I mean he took 250 micrograms. For context, that's 10 times the amount necessary to feel the effects of LSD. Not long after taking it, he began to experience some strong effects. Overwhelmed and unable to continue working, Hofmann asked his lab assistant to escort him home. But since it was 1943 and a little thing called World War II was happening, there was no cars. Instead, he rode his bicycles. As he pedaled, the effects of the LSD intensified. The world around him warped and pulsed with vibrant colors. Objects seemed to stretch and melt. He later described feeling both terrified and exhilarated during the whole ride. By the time he got home, Hofmann was convinced he was dying, but after some rest and reassurance from a house doctor, the terrifying part faded, leaving him in a state of euphoria and profound mental clarity. This event, now known as Bicycle Day, marked the first intentional LSD trip in history. Hofmann went on to advocate for the therapeutic use of LSD, even as it became a cultural phenomenon, and a political lightning rod in the decades that followed. After his first initial trip, Hofmann didn't just stop there. He became fascinated by LSD's potential, conducting even more experiments on himself and encouraging his colleagues to give it a go. Of course, by the 1960s, LSD had jumped from the psychiatric's couch to the festival grounds. Counterculture icons like Timothy Leary and Ken Kesey popularized it as a tool for expanding consciousness, or as an excuse to paint flowers on everything. Either way, the government was not thrilled. This led to LSD being banned in many countries by the late 1960s. But the legacy of Hofmann's discovery didn't disappear. It went underground, shaping everything from music to philosophy. Fast forward to today, and LSD is making a cautious comeback. Scientists are exploring its potential to treat mental health issues like PTSD and end-of-life anxiety. Hofmann lived to see some of the resurgence, passing away in 2008 at the age of 102. Maybe those mind-expanding trips kept him young. And that's how Albert Hofmann's curiosity gave us LSD and the wildest bike ride in history. Well, that's all I have time for today. Happy holidays, and goodbye.